Good morning, everyone. My name is Pastor Theresa Soto, and I am the lead minister at the First Unitarian Church of Oakland. We're asking folks to turn off your video while we light the chalice and the Black Lives Matter candle. This will allow people to see the words on the screen and follow along. We also recommend that you make certain you have the most recent version of Zoom on your computer or other device. Please note that we're recording this service, so if you don't want to be in the recording, please keep your camera off. And now we'll begin with lighting the chalice. We light this chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. May it remind us of the divine spark in all of creation, the power of love to heal what is broken, and to be grateful for life's blessings each day. And now the Black Lives Matter candle. We light this candle in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and work for the day in which Black lives are treated equitably with dignity and justice. Welcome, Mary Lane. Thank you for being with us this morning for our board welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Lane, and I'm representing the board here to welcome you all. We are an intentionally multi-generational, multiracial, multicultural, inclusive, and anti-oppressive religious community, and you are welcome here. We are about to start recording the session, so if you don't want to be in the recording, keep your camera off. And speaking of cameras, let's see, we are asking you for much of the service to turn off your cameras, so this makes it easier for many of us to focus on the music and words. There will be time to see each other, and we'll let you know when it's time to turn your cameras back on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I welcome Corless with some words for us this morning.
Hi, everybody. I'm Corless Smith. Isn't the rain great? It feels like such a blessing. Our theme this month is stillness, and white queer poet Segovia Amiel offers this thought on stillness. Stillness, the wide-eyed stillness, blinks, and at once we are awakened, softly, gently, into the mystery of the spaces we breathe. I'd like to invite Stefan Schneider to share a song.
Morning, everyone. We're going to sing Silver Bells this morning to get us all in the holiday spirit. If you know it, please sing along. I'd like to make sure everybody knows to mute their microphones. And here we go. Silver bell, silver bell, it's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them ring. Soon it will be Christmas Day. City sidewalks, busy sidewalks, dressed in holiday style. In the air, there's a feeling of Christmas. People laughing, people passing, meeting smile after smile. And on every street corner, you hear silver bells, silver bells, silver bells. It's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them ring. Soon it will be Christmas Day. String of streetlights, even stoplights, blinking bright red and green. as shoppers rush home with their treasure. Hear the snow crush, see the kids rush. This is Santa's big day. And above all the bustle, you'll hear silver bells, silver bells, silver bells. It's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them ring. Soon it will be Christmas Day. Soon it will be Christmas Day.
Thank you so much for that beautiful song, Stefan. It's really wonderful. Now we're going to go ahead and unmute our microphones, turn on our cameras, and say hello to our neighbors.
Hello.
Hello,
Morning,
everybody.
everybody.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good morning, everyone.
Buenos dias.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi, Marcy.
Hi, everybody.
Morning, Carol.
Morning. Hi, Marilyn. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Judith.
Hi, Judy.
Yeah.
Terry,
Hi,
hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Helen.
Hi, MJ.
Marilyn.
Hi,
Hi,
MJ.
Cassie.
Everybody.
Hi, Dan.
Hey, with the
Harlan,
cat.
hi.
Hey.
Here. Hi, Judith.
Charles and Lauren, yay.
Hi,
Hey, Lauren.
Hey, Marilyn.
Hi, Piper. Hi, Acorn.
Hi, Claudine.
Ingrid, hello. Hi there.
Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
Hey. All right.
Hey,
Yes.
Steve.
Emily
Hi.
and Craig.
Yes, we're here.
Hi. Look at all that
Acorn, what do
hair,
you think of all
Piper.
of this? Yeah. Debbie.
Which one of us?
Sarah. Judith.
Hi, Lila.
Hi.
Hello.
Owen.
Hi, Debbie.
Jane.
Hi, Debbie. Hi there, Lila.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Rinda.
Hi.
There's another page of people.
I know.
How wonderful.
Oh.
Well,
Hi,
let's
Gregory.
return.
Hi, Emily. People.
Oh, I guess that's a lot of windows.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And today I want to invite you to think about how you collect information of sound. Some people have to watch sound. Other people have to listen for sound. One time I watched Dame Evelyn Glennie talk about playing the drums, and she talked about how she feels for sound, right? So there's lots of different ways. I want to tell you a story, and it's about a farmer. The farmer's named Joe, and Joe had a grandpa named Joe, and Grandpa Joe gave Farmer Joe a watch. And because farming is hard work, you use your muscles and your hands a lot, Farmer Joe didn't wear the watch very often, but they definitely wore it to church. So one day they were walking through the barley field. This beautiful had turned from green to gold, and they looked down, and the watch was missing. So okay, they looked all over. They did, but they thought, I'm going to need some help. So they said to the children of the village, listen, children of the village, if you find my watch, I will give you $100. They said, well, where do you think the watch is? And Farmer Joe said, well, I was walking through the barley field and I didn't see it on my arm. But what I know is that it was in the barn. They said, the barn, no problem. The children went in the barn and they looked and they looked. They looked through the hay. They looked by the chickens. They looked. They didn't find it. But there was one small kid named Sweetie. After everyone went home for lunch, stayed playing in the yards after dinner, Sweetie went back to Farmer Joe. Sweetie said, Farmer Joe, I'm pretty sure that if you let me go in the barn, I can find your watch. And Farmer Joe said, well, how could I turn that down? So, Sweetie went in the barn, and Farmer Joe did a couple chores. And before long, Sweetie came out of the barn in possession of a watch. And Farmer Joe said, wait a minute, Sweetie. How did you find this watch? And Sweetie said, well, when everyone from school was there, it was hard to find the watch. But when everyone was not there, I could be very still in the barn and collect the ticks and tocks with my ears and follow them to the watch. So when we talk about the treasures of stillness, one of them is what we will find when we are very still. And so I want you to remember Sweetie and the watch and Farmer Joe. Thanks so much, friends. Sometimes people have a question about Unitarian Universalism. They say, well, if you're not required to believe in a God, then what are you worshiping, right? If you're not required to believe in a God, then what are you praying to? So I want to say at the outset that a theist belief set is welcome, right? And when we come together, the spot we're coming together in is a spot of considering what is larger than ourselves, right? And together we are more than we are alone. Today, as I'm bringing you this pastoral prayer, it's specifically framed around questions. Maybe someone could conceive of asking them of a God person, but generally, I'm thinking of asking those questions of what is larger than we are, and also asking of our collective body these questions. So if you'd enter with me into a state of prayer, meditation, or reflection, I'd like to offer this to you. If all around you sickness raged, and you'd been spared somehow, for now, how would you hold it? What would you do? If all around you, all around the whole wide globe, no continent untouched, plague came, and your house was for now okay, what would you be thinking? That there is no plague because you yourself aren't coughing? That you and yours are special, chosen, worthier, deserving? In the past lives of humanity, theologies were built upon such thoughts. Theologies and churches. Ideologies of shame, no continent untouched. If you yourself and those you love were somehow safe for now, and others weren't, hundreds of thousands and millions now aren't, what would that mean? Morally, I mean. How can we know how to hold what we know? Today, as every day, we're given all the threads we need to weave new understanding. Health does not imply goodness. Wealth does not connote goodness. White does not equal goodness. plain luck has never meant goodness. All around us, sadness deepens. Sickness rages on. All around us, from within us, if we choose it, and among us. Kindness deepens. Wisdom grows. There is still time to learn the laws of love. As we gather together, what I hope for you is that you encounter your own compassion for yourself, for others, for the pain that you carry, for the pain that they carry. Ultimately, for the world in which we are with in a long-term relationship. For all these things, we give thanks and care and love. And now I get to invite Corless for a reflection.
Thank you. Thinking about stillness reminds me of a roommate I had in college who, whenever she came home, would turn the television set on. Asked about this, she said that she just felt more at home when there was sound of conversation in the environment. Many people, most perhaps, put on music when they have people over. When I was in college, if somebody dropped by to hang out, which people did then quite frequently without ever calling in advance, the first thing to do was put on a record. Then we'd talk over the record. There must have been a number of reasons for doing this, but surely one result was that we couldn't hear our thoughts very well. Likewise, at the big party where blasting music created a sort of unreality in which it really wasn't such a bad idea to get really drunk and lose your mind. That was a long time ago. Today, I value stillness greatly and seek it because I need it and enjoy it. It's a requirement of clarity, another quality I've come to value. But modern life pulls in the opposite direction from stillness, towards activity and noise. When the telephone first became available, some people said, "Geez, I don't want anyone to have the ability to set off a loud bell in my home." Then that bell going off in your home became normal. Now it's email. Sometimes I don't look at my email or text messages for several days. The senders really don't like this. "What's wrong?" they ask. "Why didn't you reply?" I feel bad to disappoint them, but I just can't abide so much screen time and communication. Once I told my department chair that I didn't answer email on the weekends. He was really annoyed by this. But I just didn't see any reason why, just because of technology, he should have more access to my attention than he did before. The fact is that there are other things I want to do with my time and attention. I'm with Paramahansa Yogananda, who said that stillness is the altar of the spirit. If we seek wisdom, this altar of stillness is what we need. According to Eckhart Tolle, wisdom comes with the ability to be still. Just look and listen. No more is needed. Being still, looking, and listening activates the non-conceptual intelligence within you. I like his recipe for stillness too. Seek out a tree and let it teach you stillness. Of course, many of us try to develop stillness through meditation. We sit still for a time, not doing anything, just noting the parade of thoughts through our minds. We note our impatience, we steal looks at our watches, or we follow one of the many thoughts down whatever road it takes us. But just the effort to be still is beneficial, I think. In the words of Bridget Weber, when troubles flare, the best wisdom for you to absorb is inside it. To hear you is inside you, To hear it, you need to be still. The mind is noisy without stillness. The constant clatter of thoughts jumble and take up space. Be still and let wisdom come to you. Our own stillness requires that we establish boundaries, limits to how much stimulation from outside we can absorb or endure. I feel lucky that I can make such choices. I know many people can't. They have to answer the emails, tweets, and such to make a living. But even so, anyone can carve out a space for stillness and be the better for it. And now Reverend Theresa and I will do a reading.
First, I'm going to be really grateful for your reflection, Corless. It's so relatable and helpful to think about places and spots to take some stillness. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Great. Well, let's do it. This poem is called A Brave and Startling Truth, and it's by ancestor Maya Angelou. We, this people on a small and lonely planet, traveling through casual space, past aloof stars, across the way of indifferent suns, to a destination where all the signs tell us it is possible and imperative that we learn a brave and startling truth.
And when we come to it, to the day of peacemaking, when we release our fingers from fists of hostility and allow the pure air to cool our palms,
When we come to it, when the curtain falls on the minstrel show of hate and faces sooted with scorn are scrubbed clean, when battlefields and Colosseum no longer rake our unique and particular sons and daughters up with a bruised and bloody grass to lie in identical plots in foreign soil.
when the rapacious storming of the churches, the screaming racket in the temples has ceased, when the pennants are waving gaily, when the banners of the world tremble stoutly in the good, clean breeze.
And when we come to it, let the rifles fall from our shoulders, and children dress their dolls in flags of truce, when landmines of death have been removed, and the aged can walk into evenings of peace, when religious ritual is not perfumed by the incense of burning flesh, and childhood dreams are not kicked awake by nightmares of abuse.
When we come to it, then we will confess that not the pyramids with their stones set in mysterious perfection, nor the gardens of Babylon hanging as eternal beauty in our collective memory, not the Grand Canyon kindled into delicious color by Western sunsets,
Nor the Danube flowing its blue soul into Europe, not the sacred peak of Mount Fuji stretching to the rising sun, neither Father Amazon nor Mother Mississippi, who without favor nurture all creatures in the depths and on the shores. These are not the only wonders of the soul.
when we come to it, we, this people on this minuscule and kithless globe, who reach daily for the bomb, the blade, and the dagger, yet who petition in the dark for tokens of peace. We, this people on this mote of matter in whose mouths abide cankerous words which challenge our very existence, yet out of those same mouths come songs of such exquisite sweetness that the heart falters in its labor and the body is quieted into love.
We, this people, on this small and drifting planet, whose hands can strike with such abandon that in a twinkling, life is sapped from the living. Yet those same hands can touch with such healing, irresistible tenderness, that the haughty neck is happy to bow, and the proud back is glad to bend. Out of such chaos, of such contradiction, we learn that we are neither devils nor divines.
When we come to it, we, this people, on this wayward floating body created on this earth, of this earth, have the power to fashion for this earth a climate where every man and every woman can live freely, without sanctimonious piety, without fear.
When we come to it, we must confess that we are the possible. We are the miraculous, the true wonder of this world. That is when, and only when, we come to it. Thank you, Corless. I have just a few reminders for you today. One is that we have pastoral care for you, which means we want to listen closely to what's going on. If you have joys, challenges, questions, inspirations, the whole spectrum of your beautiful mind can be listened to by a pastoral care associate. They are currently and newly being coordinated by Carol Wood. Thank you so much, Carol, for your service in that capacity. And you can reach pastoral care associates by emailing pastoralcare@uuoakland.org. And one more quick thing, it's really important for you to, read your chalice chatter, because it's very important for clergy, staff, teams to communicate with you, right? It's important. So then the corollary, the response, is that you receive the communication. So please read that. It's going to have a lot of, you know what they say on the internet to get you to click? They say, amazing life hack. So I'm going to tell you, Chalice Chatter is full of amazing life hacks. But really, it's just the information that you need for your week. Right? Great. And let's go ahead and take a smooth breath. Wiggle your shoulders. Relax your face. Raise and lower your eyebrows, perhaps. And we'll begin a reflection. I'm grateful to be here with you today for all our possibilities. And as we begin talking about stillness, the prayer of my heart is that it'll be a blessing to you, and it'll be something that you can take into your week and share with others. So, I have a question for you. You don't have to answer it in any visible way, but if you want to tell me in the chat a yes, well, I would welcome it. My question is this. Do you consider yourself a practical person? I know many of you may. And if we take advice from British queer writer and satirist Oscar Wilde, this is what he says. Oscar Wilde says, people who count their chickens before they hatch act very wisely, because chickens run about so absurdly that it is impossible to count them accurately. Thanks, Oscar. So the deal with being practical is that it leads us to a question. Why are we talking about stillness anyway? Well, you've already had a head start for two reasons. One is you got to hear about Sweetie and the Watch. Sometimes being still is a survival skill, right? And then we got to hear from Corless about Corless's experiences of developing stillness skills, right? So that's great. There is an example in the other extreme, and it is from Emily Dickinson. She says, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves in immortality. She was so busy that she couldn't stop to die. Of course, she's alive at the end of the poem, but it's an imagining of how busy we can make ourselves. And we compare that to stillness. When we talk about the treasures of stillness, what I want you to think about is that before you try something, you don't know what's inside it. That's why a lot of modern parents say, hey, listen, if you don't like a food, that's cool. Just, limited number of bites, 3 bites. After 3 bites, if you still don't like it, well, okay, then we know you don't like it. But our palates change and grow. And so we have to try things. This is what we're talking about when we talk about stillness. We're talking about growing our palate to increase this particular taste. One of the things we can find in stillness is love for ourselves. So I'm going to read you something to that end. Sometimes life asks you to stop pretending. Sometimes asks nicely, like, stop, please stop. Arrive at the quiet, like the silk soft silence of snow. And the trees will be bare, swaths of brown black against a gray sky, suggesting nothing in their stillness. Life will ask you to suppose that you are meant for more than alternating between states of being busy and being brokenhearted. Life will ask you so much. In reply, you can put your hand on your forehead and bless your unfolding life. Forgive the times when you have forgotten to be honest, defaulting instead to politeness. And I don't know what they told you, but politeness cannot be kind if it is not true. Honesty is not mean because it is bare and strong. Come home to your own self. And if you need this moment to be a new beginning, have it. Taste it. Breathe it. Wear it well. The mantle of all the mattering you are to the entire universe. There's a lot that would call you away from your skills of stillness, from your skills of understanding yourself as not just an essential worker, but also an essential being. Right? There's a lot. This time calls for a lot. But one of the definitions of stress is when the demands outweigh the resources. Does that make sense to you? So, when we talk about that, this time calls for a lot. But the truth is, you are this infinite richness in the universe. And the way to arrive at that is by stillness. By hearing and knowing who you are in the world. There is more. There is more than just running around. And the truth is, when I remind you that there are people in the congregation ready to listen to your joy and your care, your challenge and your interest, it's partly because when you say the things that are in your heart, then they allow you to take care of them, to celebrate them, to engage them, to comfort them. Self-comfort is a really important skill in this time. If you have something that you've been doing that builds your spirit and allows you to be comforted, will you go ahead and put that in the chat? As we think about stillness, we are thinking about what it means to be still inside ourselves, to be still together. It came upon a midnight clear. Those are Unitarian words. Edward Sears wrote them. He was the minister in Wayland, Massachusetts. And part of what we know about getting to that clarity is that it all has to do with where the pressure is high and where the pressure is low and how much humidity there is in the air. Right? But when we continue to talk about that stillness, one of the things we're saying is that we come from somewhere else. We come from a center in which the richness that we are and the richness that others are isn't minimized, isn't left for last. Like, well, I am a rich universe inside, but first, let me pay this bill. I am a rich universe inside, but let me sit down and answer these 20 emails. Sort of. Not really, though. Underneath all that is your stillness, is the truth of who you are and who others are in the world. Right? One of the things that calls you away from your stillness is the demand to be good and look right. Now, when I tell you that the demand to be good is getting you off your game, it's not because I want you to be bad. You know that, right? It's because we're comparing it to the pressure of perfection. No one needs to be perfect. They simply need to be themselves, in which case they're being something that no one else can be. Right? So those things are really important. There's such a beautiful list happening of how you return to a stillness in the chat. So let's just take a couple minutes to review that, and then we'll wrap up this portion of the service. Let me see what you're doing. Spend time journaling and writing down dreams. Good night ritual with husband. Daily 20-minute guided meditation with Sam Harris. Daily list of gratitudes. Zia's and Piper's bedtime ritual with baby, milk, cuddles, results in reading a novel out loud. 4-7-8 and 4 square breathing. Walking the dog every night through the darkness when the streets are empty. Reconnecting with childhood friends on Zoom. Stopping and following breath for 10 breaths and just observing it. After administer eye drops and let medicine soak into eyes. Walking dogs, sitting with coffee in front of the fire with the dogs. Hearing and watching wind in the trees. Fresh brewed green tea each morning. Walking the hills of San Francisco. Y'all are doing such a good job finding the important aspects of your cozy life. I want to remind you, right? Comparing stillness to perfection, one of the important things to say is that if you miss your cozy life practice once, it's okay. Nobody's mad. Try again, right? And maybe try one of the other awesome practices in that amazing list. All right, let's take a smooth breath, and then we'll close this reflection. We are grateful, and we carry so much. But especially one of the joys we carry is the love of this community. I'm grateful to have thought with you about what's the practical point of stillness. And I'm grateful to hear from the congregation all the different ways you return to your stillness. So thank you. We're going to take just a moment or two to do a video meditation, and then we'll return with invitation and generosity. This container has liquids of different densities in it, still and then moving. The bubbles can represent thoughts, worries, memories, and when they get shaken up, they move around. It's a swirl of emotion, perhaps, inside us. One thing you can do is pay attention to one of the bubbles at the top of the picture and follow it all the way down, holding your worry or thought gently, and then when you reach the bottom, letting go. If you still don't feel ready to let go, you can follow another bubble with the same thought, or move to a different thought, move to a different worry. But all the while, pay attention to your inner world and the bubbles.
Hi, I'm here to issue an invitation to generosity. Do you ever notice how generosity has the same root in it as generate? Because it is a generative activity, being generous, generosity. They refer to birth, creation, and growth. These are what we want for our beloved church. For it to be healthy, our church needs the nourishment of our giving, of our generosity. We need it and it needs us. So please make a donation through any of the ways that are described in the chat. The church will be better for it, and so will you. We'll generate the church, and the church will generate us.
Thank you. You're going to see in the chat directions for giving. So if you need those, then they're there. And Corless will lead us in these words of congregational commitment.
Please join me. To the work of the church, which is creating a tapestry of love we call community, we dedicate our offerings and ourselves.
Find the stillness, oh, the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, oh, the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Such a beautiful chancel choir recording. Thank you to those of you listening who worked really hard on chancel choir themes. And now let's go ahead. I invite you to cross your hands over your heart or clasp the hands with those you're sharing space with and hear these words of benediction. In the business of this day, may we embrace stillness. Stillness of seeing, of feeling, and of being. Through the conflicting voices of our hearts, let us seek calmness of hearing. Let our words and actions be rooted in a silent certainty that beneath the hubbub, it is love that lies in the stillness. Let our longings for justice be grounded in the experience of stillness beneath, between and among and beneath us all. Let that stillness arise. Let our lives be deeply rooted in the ground of peace. Go well. Live in peace and practice love.